Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world.
So today we're taking a look at a story that pretty much everyone loves, William Goldman's The Princess Bride. But we're not just here for the story itself. We're going to use it as a perfect, almost self-aware model to understand the immense power of narrative control. Now, most of us know this story, right? But our focus today isn't really the plot. Instead, we're looking at the book as an object, a system that was very carefully put together to give us a specific, curated experience. And that really gets to the core question for this explainer. How is a story controlled and shaped long before you ever get your hands on it? And what's fascinating is, The Princess Bride gives us a surprisingly clear answer. Okay, let's dive right in. First things first, we need to identify the system of control. And the cool thing here is that the book doesn't hide it at all. In fact, it announces it right on the cover.
I mean, just look at these title pages. It's literally printed right there. The Good Parts version, abridged by William Goldman. From the get-go, the book tells you it's a curated object. This public declaration is the system of editorial authority we're going to pick apart.
So, Goldman kicks the whole thing off with this absolutely brilliant paradox. He talks about how his father read him this version of a story that he just treasured, a version that, he finds out later, never actually existed in print. His favorite story was a product of curation. So right away, this system of control isn't some evil, manipulative thing. It's framed as, an act of love, a father editing a story for his son.
Okay, so to really get our heads around how this all works, we need a structural metaphor for this process of picking and choosing. Let's call it the narrative filter. So what is a narrative filter? Well, think of it like this. It's any process that intentionally includes some information while leaving other bits out. And its purpose isn't just to make a story shorter, but to fundamentally shape how you perceive it, and, at the end of the day, what the story even means.
So, how does this filter actually govern the story? Well, it really all boils down to the incentives behind the cuts. What gets to stay, what has to go, and maybe most importantly, why.
I mean, just check out what Goldman says he cut out. Get this, 66 pages on the history of Florin, 56 pages of packing and unpacking, tedious genealogies. By cutting out all the so-called boring parts, Goldman isn't just editing, he's governing our experience, optimizing it for pure entertainment.
And all of this governance leads to a very specific, curated outcome. The story that comes out of the filter is fundamentally different from the one that went in. You see, as Goldman tells it, the original fictional author, Morgenstern, was actually writing a dense satire about the decline of European monarchies. But once it goes through Goldman's filter, bam, it becomes a tale of true love and high adventure. The filter literally changed the entire genre and meaning of the work.
And that brings us to, of course, this legendary line. In Morgenstern's so-called original, it's just one piece of a much bigger, more complicated satiric puzzle. But in the abridged version, it becomes a central pillar of the entire story.
You see, the filter makes lines like this pop by stripping away all the political stuff around it. But the real engine behind the filter, the core logic, is perfectly captured in another famous line, "as you wish." Structurally, what does that phrase mean? It means, I will give you exactly what you want. And that is precisely what Goldman's filter does for the reader. It gives us what we want, the romance, the revenge, the adventure, by cutting out anything that stands in the way.
All right, let's zoom out for a second. This model of a narrative filter in just one book is actually a perfect little microcosm for the massive interconnected media systems we're all swimming in every single day. And here's why these kinds of curated stories stick around. They're often just more engaging or hit us harder emotionally. You can actually see this pattern evolve over time. It starts with something manual, like Goldman's abridgment for entertainment. Then it evolves into institutional news editing, which curates information. And today, we have automated algorithmic feeds that curate billions of pieces of content for engagement. The principle is exactly the same.
And this is the real kicker. The Princess Bride is honest about its filter. It tells you right on the cover. But in most of the media we consume now, that filter is invisible. When we don't know a filter is at work, when we can't see the code or the editorial incentives, the curated version starts to feel like the only version. The good parts version becomes our reality, and that's what creates a crisis in perception. Crisis in perception examines how systems shape belief and how better tools help us see clearly. This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind Crisis in Perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon. For a longer audio-based analysis of this topic, see the deep dive linked in the description. If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.